Street takeovers have gotten worse, and now with people even defending them, it makes it really interesting conversation to figure out why that would even be the case. Now, before we can even go into why people are defending street takeovers, we have to go a little bit back into the history of what they are. And we've talked about this in the past. I'm not no slouch when it comes to street takeover conversations because I hate them very, very much. There's one thing I despise, it's street takeovers. Now, this started all the way back in the late 70s and early 80s in Oakland, California. A lot of this really takes place in two very predominant areas. You'd be talking about Eastmont Mall and Foothill Square. Now, what would happen is that a lot of people would get together with some of their old 60s and 70s muscle cars and just hang out. And over time, that hanging out turned into doing dumb shit with your car. Except back in the day, it was with cars that probably weren't that quick, and it was in parking lots that nobody really cared about. Why does having that history actually matter? And I think it does because it's a lot older than most people think. Sideshows and street takeovers had one thing in common. No matter how long you look back into the history, no matter how much you look to just right now, there's two groups of people. They're the people that are over the age of 21, and there are people that are not. You'll notice that a lot of the origins of street takeovers and sideshows were almost next to or in the parking lots of clubs, music festivals, and things like that. Places where people over the age of 21 could get into on a Friday night or Saturday night, but anybody that was under the age of 21 would get rejected. And when they're not of age, what do? Well, they f around and they find out. And that's pretty much what happened and started to spawn what I would almost argue the even more irresponsible type of street takeovers. If you look into 2020 and 2021 and 2022, you're gonna see a very interesting thing start to happen with these takeovers. Almost all of them are pretty damn young. Not only are more people young that are taking part in street takeovers, but it's happening pretty much all over. You're seeing street takeover news in California, Texas, New Jersey, Florida, and now for some reason, Connecticut. You're seeing people getting arrested because they're trying to set up a sideshow through Snapchat, and these people are 18. Some of them are just getting trialed as juvie kids. Like, they're not old people. Sure, there are some street takeovers that you go out there and you see the videos, you see the age, you see the weapons that they have, and you're like, yes, they're over the age of 21. But a lot of the volume of people that go to street takeovers aren't. They're all teenagers. So how has it progressed, especially over the last couple decades? You might have seen street takeovers in the form of motorcycles, you may have seen street takeovers in the form of ATVs, and now you're probably hearing it in the terms of cars, and probably at some point or another, trucks will get involved at some point in time. But the progression of street takeovers have gone just from a sideshow in a parking lot somewhere or warehouse parking lot into shutting down any intersection they want, any bridge they want, and not just doing damage to themselves or hurting themselves, but now causing a whole bunch of pain in the ass situations for everybody around those people. And those people that are doing that dumb shit are almost always associated with the car community. You type in street takeovers on Google right now, I promise you, you are going to see articles of people referencing street racing, car shows, night meets, as street takeovers, even though they have nothing to do with one another. I'm not condoning street racing, but it's not the same thing as lining two cars up in the middle of a desert and getting pulled over versus having 600 people at an intersection running into each other. They're just not the same. And with more things happening at these street takeovers, it's only gotten worse. There are some states where they literally do nothing. They'll just park cars around the street takeover. Cops will just wait there and hope things calm and settle out. And when everybody leaves and there's cars on fire, they'll go in there with a fire truck and they just, wash it down, and they say, oh, well, sorry about that. There are some states that are getting much more aggressive. States like Texas have really buckled down in terms of allowing things to really not go too far. The moment a street takeover is even mentioned, they have special task forces that are dedicated to shutting them down and pulling over and arresting literally anyone they possibly can. I'm gonna take you back on something called mob mentality. I used to have a motorcycle. I've had multiple of them ever since I was young. I stopped riding motorcycle when I moved to Appleton. I must have had a little under maybe like 9 bikes, I would say, in total, and I loved it. But let me tell you something. If you have been a motorcycle rider before, before and you've been in a group of 20 to 30 bikes, or you've gone to an event and there's been 100 or 200 bikes, you know mob mentality. You can do anything because nobody's going to be able to get you. The odds are so low in terms of getting in trouble that most people realize that and they do whatever they want. Now, with mob mentality, you are invincible. You are God. And when you are under the age of 18 and you feel invincible and you feel like you're God, and then you get arrested and nothing happens, you just end up doing it again. So how does that mean people are defending street takeovers? Well, it comes down to the same reason that we all have a love-hate relationship with the internet. If you look at the internet and you go out there and you go to a comment section, you never really know what you're gonna get when there's a controversial situation. Go on YouTube and you'll see almost everybody talking about street takeovers, but you head over to TikTok and you won't. Not every time you see comment sections on street takeovers is it something about them being stopped. You'll almost notice people defending it, saying that there's nothing wrong with it, saying that they pay taxes so they should be able to do what they want. The anonymity of the internet has caused a lot of people to gravitate towards a street takeover. And when you think about it, if you're under the age of 18 and you can go out and hang out with a group and do some dumb shit in an intersection and do some burnouts with your shitty car, you're gonna go out and you're gonna do that. And that's just kind of how it goes. But I do think it will stop. I just don't think it's gonna stop in the way that you and I think. I've seen people crack down on street takeovers through finding out things through Snapchat, Instagram pages, Facebook groups, literally finding ways to talk to these 17-year-old kids through, like, I don't even know how to talk about it, like a task force of police agents that pretend that they're high schoolers to figure out where this stuff is happening. It's the only way I really see it going. But I think there also needs to be a little bit more accountability for the people that are under 18 years old, which is shockingly enough a very large volume of the people that go to street takeovers. There's no consequence to them, and I think there probably needs to be, because if they're not gonna get their ass beat by their parents for doing dumb shit and running into somebody, then the police should ought to do something too. It's just usually when you start telling parents what they can or can't do with their kids, you usually run into a couple, 2-3 pieces of trouble. But that is why I truly believe you've seen more people defend street takeovers, especially over the past couple years, which is insane to me. It's like, go somewhere and do something fun on autocross, maybe drag race your car, drift it if you gotta, but the street takeover stuff and hitting people and causing fights and causing fires, I just don't see the need for it. I don't know what you guys think, you'll have to let me know below, but I'm Alex, AlexMartini with 2 underscores on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening in, and if you do defend street takeovers for some reason, I want you to let me know below. I'm Alex, I already said that. We'll see you later. Adios.